Indie housing market. Get the latest insights right here.
Welcome back to Indie Housing Market. I'm Kyle.morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker.
I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC Tucker.
And today we have Chris Pryor on. I'll let you introduce yourself, actually, just so you can explain your title and all this other stuff. But I don't think agents have any idea
that he exists.
More importantly, that you're our best friend. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Even then, us, but also like that's an extension of the consumer, I choose to believe, you know, if that makes sense, because we are almost the mouthpiece of the consumer to a certain extent as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll let you introduce yourself and your title.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm Chris Pryor, and I'm the Chief Advocacy Officer at MIBOR Realtor Association.
And you've been doing it for
31 years.
So you know your stuff. And you know everybody you need to know.
I hope so. I don't know if I know everybody yet, but I know a lot of people.
I can tell you this: you've seen more markets than most people have seen, and then you more importantly, you've seen how our industry has evolved, and that's why like you're such an important piece of this, is because as we evolve, that also creates new problems, new doors, new ways of thinking that then we haven't thought about. Like, you know, one of the weird things is when you create a solution, like obviously it opens up all these other pathways of things that we haven't even thought about yet. Like you put a solution in place and you're like, oh, this really worked for this. You're like, oh crap, this opened up this, this, and this. Right. And so A, you're ahead of the curve with like kind of thinking ahead like that, but B, then you're also the person who helps try to figure out how do we solve these problems, right? And so
so explain exactly what that means to be a chief advocacy officer. That's very hard to say.
Yeah, it is a mouthful. So
CAO.
My job really is focused on working with local government and how it impacts real estate, realtors, home ownership. So we're there looking out for the interest of realtors and their clients, and we work with all of the mayors, county commissioners, city councils, anybody that's elected at the local level, and we would have an interest in any type of regulation or law that might be passed that could impact realtors or home ownership in general. So it could be zoning regulations, taxes, any kind of restrictions on your ability to sell property, rent property.
So that's the big one in the room right now, right? So you were highly involved in the rental caps that were trying to be put into place by Fishers and Carmel. So explain that whole process. And
which technically were put into place, actually.
They were.
Yeah, they were unfortunately. Out. So that was one of the few cases where we were not successful in getting
not
the
for a lack
that
of
we
trying.
Right. Although we did have, I think we did have some positive impact on the final product that's out there. So at least I think it's better than it could have been. Mm-hmm. And the fight's not over. We're gonna continue to work on this issue. But so Carmel and Fishers most recently passed rental registries and a cap on rentals, so that neighborhoods cannot have more than 10% of their homes being rental properties.
So I want to clarify that, because I know Carmel had also, both of them started saying the whole city, but now it's just each individual HOA at a 10% cap.
Right. Carmel, Fishers was always by neighborhood, but Carmel attempted, the original ordinance said that they wanted to limit to 10% by neighborhood, but also a 10% citywide cap. So whichever one of those would have been reached first would have limited rentals, but the citywide portion of that was stripped out during the legislative process.
So in regards to the 10% cap, that means all homes within one neighborhood, if it hits 10%, are not going to be able to be rented past that. So we looked at the stats and stuff, and what was some of the reasons why MIBOR felt this was a bad idea?
Well, there's a long list, so I won't go through all the reasons, but some of the top reasons, I would say number one is that the Realtor Association has been a strong proponent of private property rights, primarily, is kind of the first thing that really why we took interest in this. And so we feel that just, in your bundle of rights, when you own property, you should be able to buy and sell or lease your property, and this takes away one of those fundamental rights, and is your ability to rent your property. And so we felt that that was, a violation of property rights. We think it also interferes with the free market because now it artificially limits the number of rentals within a community, which will have negative consequences such as driving up rental rates, I believe. But there were some other reasons that were cited. One, Fisher's really started this with a focus on going after the corporate Wall Street investors that have been coming in. So you think about American Homes for Rent and some of those guys that have been buying quite a bit over the last several years when interest rates were at an all-time low. They came in, and it really kind of started after the housing crash back in the 2008, 2009 time period. They saw an opportunity to come in and buy a lot of foreclosure properties, which was actually, for a short period of time, kind of a really good thing because it kind of helped stabilize neighborhoods in the market to some extent so that we didn't have a bunch of vacant properties just sitting out there kind of dragging down values and so forth. So, but they did figured out that, they could flip these into rentals and make money and then package them into hedge funds and securities and make an income off of that. And so then they started buying more because interest rates were, again, so low in 14, 15, 16, that time period. But over the last couple of years, I think you guys have probably noticed it in your business that we've really seen them shift their priorities because the numbers don't work for them because housing prices have gone up substantially. And then over the last couple of years, interest rates have really cool that process off. So
I don't think I have seen an offer come from an institutional investor in over 2.5 years.
Me neither. Yep. And or have I competed against it, which I know that's what they were saying is it was taking the ability of real
which was fair.
homeowners.
Like that, that was rough.
It happened.
That was really
but it's
rough.
behind the 8 ball. It seems like it's a little late to the market here.
Yeah, but we talked about this, and so that's one of the things. It's like it's not currently a problem. It's like, how do we protect it from happening again, right? I think that's kind of the vein that it gets sold in to a certain extent of especially with the market being what it is right now as well. I can understand there's even more fear because, people see price reductions and that's a whole different conversation we've been talking about for a couple of weeks or whatever. But, the concern is will this happen again, right?
Right. And I think, we are sympathetic to kind of the concerns that are out there about this group of buyers. And we've been following the corporate investors for the last several years because we had our own concerns about the impact they were having on the marketplace. And we hear a lot from our own members that have had to compete against the corporate investors, right? And their traditional buyers are being outcompeted in many cases because the corporate investors can come in with, and waive appraisals and inspections and have, cash offers and so forth. And so that made it real appealing for sellers out there to work with those guys. And so we understand that they've been a challenge to a lot of our members, but like you said, the last couple of years there haven't been any buyers. And in fact, a lot of those corporate investors were selling properties on the open marketplace over the last couple of years. And we feel that these proposals probably just created an incentive for the investors
to come back
and but to
hurry before they run out.
More than anything, to never sell those properties now, right? So they were starting to let go of some of those, and now they've just they've got a reason to hold on because they can't get any more, and because the rents are going to go up.
Yeah. Well, and I even said this too when we were talking to some of the councilmen or whatever in regards to that. They said that they would watch the transition of the names and stuff like that. I could just see these properties go into trust. I could see them just never leaving the family. It is now a commodity that a family could hold on to because nobody else can have, right? If it hits that 10% cap and it never goes away, then there's never the ability to have them be a rental. That would mean everybody who owns one will just pass them down. I just see that.
The interesting thing about this, it's so overlooked as we're passing laws that impact everybody, is the whole idea that we have completely overlooked is we created the problem also. And I don't mean agents, I mean sellers, because sellers accepted those offers, right? Because they saw the extra 10K or whatever it was, because it was never some massive number. But 10K moves the meter. Don't get me wrong there. And now we're oh, what are we doing? But I don't see any of those people who sold to them out there, for all I know, they could be saying like, oh, I don't want this. They could be people saying like, this is what's hurt my community, but yet they sold to one. When like all of us know, like, I can't discriminate against anybody, but I can discriminate against them with an offer, right? But that's not a protected class. An institutional investor is not a protected class. I can outright deny that offer just because it's an institutional investor, right? But none of these sellers did it.
Right.
And now we're like, what's wrong with my community? But nobody wanted to complain when they got the extra $15K, right? So it's just, we're always our own worst enemies. Like usually it's agents I'm talking about, but like us as a society as a whole have created this problem. And now we're like, oh, look what we created. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't hear you say nothing when you got the 10K over list, right?
Well, and you bring up an interesting point because it's we've also created this situation on ourselves because of our restrictive development standards that our cities have passed, because and all of the people that go out and fight proposed developments that might have more attainable type of housing or a different type of housing. So the reason that there's so much demand for these types of rental properties because these investors are they're filling these things up. It's not like they're having trouble renting these out, right? So people are wanting these because it's extremely difficult for the average person to buy a home anymore, right? We've pushed housing prices have gone up so much, and all of the new construction that we're building is really focused on the top end. You hardly ever see any starter homes, anything that's really in the attainable
even
category.
Like
and being
the ones
built
that
anymore.
I would say that build a lot of that would be like a D.R. Horton, Arbor Homes. Even they're like $300 to walk in the door these days.
But they say that, and then by the time you put a refrigerator in, it's like $400. It's like they start with this
But the
low
sheer
number.
idea that $300 is affordable housing is insane. Like my very first house, when we bought it up here in like, what was it, 05? No, when was this? 02, right?
Yeah.
And we were like 79th and Harcourt. It was $109,000. It was a ranch. I bet that house is like $275 all day right now.
But that's the problem you're talking about with new builds is they can't even put the materials on the ground with that kind of money. Like they have to.
Cost of materials has gone up,
everything's so
labor has gone up.
expensive. Yeah. So just to build the house, it's not like they can't or don't want to. They can't.
Right.
So
There was I don't know if you remember this because I remember talking about it a lot, and it just kind of faded away, and it's been a couple of years. I feel like 3 years ago, there was two communities in particular, and for all I know, they've been built and they're fine, or maybe they never happened. There was a community they were trying to build in Fishers and in Greenfield, and I want to say maybe it was First Key or somebody like that, and they were literally trying to build an entire development that was just rentals.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, hey, cool, we took care of the problem, like this whole neighborhood, only rentals, we'll take care of it. We don't run into this issue that you're talking about because it's the perception or whatever you want to call it. But I don't think those ever got built or passed or anything. I don't remember. I mean, it's been like 3 years. But
Yeah, the one in Greenfield was built.
Okay, just south of 70 right there?
Yeah, I think, and I think there's actually a couple of those build-to-rent communities out there in Hancock County now. And there have been several other proposals. There was one here in Carmel just recently that got turned down.
Just like help solve that problem for the record. Like if we did that, like that's what you're talking about. Like if we carved out a niche for them, it wouldn't be the issue that we're currently talking about.
But isn't that what apartment buildings are? And that's what Carmel's putting up.
But it's different. So, I mean, there's just different levels of housing, and people want a single family residence with a yard where they can have children or a dog, and they don't have to go frickin' walk it. Like, have you ever been to Chicago? I'm sure we all have been.
I lived there.
It's the craziest place I've ever seen, where like people are just walking their dogs, and like your dog's just like crap on the sidewalk, and you pick it up because there's no grass. Like it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I don't think my dog would ever do that, right? But that's the whole life up there, right?
Yeah.
And not everybody wants that.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
So with all of this that has now passed, we're having another section of this move forward, right? So in regards to what's been the response from state government and other people feeling about this?
Well, I think that one, we're going to be tracking this going forward to kind of see how it's rolled out and what the response is, whether they can do it successfully or not, because this is a huge challenge for them administratively.
Yeah.
I think Fishers was more prepared to implement this than Carmel is by far, so I'm really interested to see what happens in Carmel. But we're going to be looking at a couple of additional things happening. One, I think it's likely that this will be challenged in court. I think some of these investors could possibly take this to court and challenge it. I think it's just ripe for a potential lawsuit. So that's likely to happen. But then also, I think that there's a lot of folks looking at this at the state house level and potentially creating a law that would prevent communities from enacting this type of regulation that, again, violates private property rights and interferes with the free market. So,
because the interesting thing about it that it gets overlooked is, we did this to protect against institutional investors, but you can't really write it like that.
Right.
So what it does is it limits the individual and their ability to rent or to become a landlord, because you have to do it as a blanket statement, right? And so you did one thing to protect from these other people and hurt all these other people, because home ownership, being a landlord, all these other things, like that is kind of like the American dream and how you build wealth and all these other things, and you just limited that.
And that was one of our biggest concerns with this as well, is that, again, we don't have any sympathy for the corporate investors out there. We understand why cities are focused on that, but again, they've really dropped off the last couple of years. But having said that, I mean, the bigger issue is that it captures everybody. It's a big net that hurts the mom and pop investors out there, just the individual that may be in a position where they need or want to rent.
You can't sell it, and the only access you have is
there's a million
renting.
Scenarios that you guys have been in with clients that we're in a position where maybe they tried to sell and they couldn't sell. The market just wasn't in the right condition right now, or they couldn't get the price they wanted, or they have some life event that happens to them where they need to get out quickly.
They gotta go take care of mom in Arizona or whatever.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different scenarios that
you had the numbers though that this is exactly what you're saying, is that we were trying to go against this issue that was not a mass issue, because you said
not
the
to
number
the level
is
that this kind of a
so you're going after
stroke.
all the things you're going against your homeowners in your city, but you said that only 78 institutional owners are in Carmel out of how many households?
There's only 72 corporate investor-owned properties in all of Carmel out of 30,000 single-family units.
So do our math. We just heard 228. I don't know. Subtract 72 from 33. Whatever you.
30,000.
30,000.
Yeah.
So all of those people now cannot rent because they were worried about 72 homes.
Well, the weird
portion of them, I mean, depending on whether their neighborhood hits that 10%
the cap
or not.
And even that, exactly.
But the weird thing is like we have this massive tool belt, and all we did was reach for the hammer, right? Like that's all we did, because like my neighborhood, I live in McCordsville, right? It's Hancock County. And when this stuff started happening, our HOA, and I get it, every HOA is not as proactive, not as involved, blah, blah, blah. Some of them are like loose kind of HOAs. We're like, how do we prevent institutional investors but encourage home ownership rights to be able to rent if you want to? And ours is you have to have has to be a primary residence or a homestead for the first 2 years, and then you can do that. I have a condo on the market right now that I'm dealing with, same thing, and it's in Carmel, and you can rent it, but it has to have a homestead or a primary for your first 2 years, right? So then it's like you can own it, but you can still use it in this way. Like literally just a rule like that avoids all of this headache, right? And still accomplishes the same result. Because an institutional investor isn't going to own it for 2 years just to sit on it, like because the ROI just wouldn't work out.
Right.
I just think there was other
options. And most
options.
HOAs have that at least 1 year. At least 1 year.
And that would be our preference, because then you're letting residents, decide for themselves whether they want to pass restrictive measures on what they can and can't do with their property, as opposed to the government telling you what you can and can't do, which is where we had a fundamental problem with this.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then I can just move neighborhoods. But like you're asking me to leave an entire community at this point, right? To be able to do something like that. So I don't know. And the bigger concern is like, does this spread?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of our biggest concerns with this, is that, now that Fishers has done it and now Carmel, others.
Who's next?
Somebody will be next. I'm not sure who it's going to be. We're busy out there talking to all of the elected officials in all of our communities, trying to find out, kind of gauge where they're at with this topic, because we know that they've been sharing information from Fishers and Carmel, and So we think that some of those other communities will likely look at doing this, although we know that several are sitting back because they anticipate that the lawsuits and so forth are coming down the road. So they're not eager to jump into this. And in fact, Carmel, had conversations with the mayor. The mayor was very concerned about the city pushing this forward because of the potential
fight
lawsuit.
it on the back
so
end.
it was really the council who really pushed this in Carmel. It wasn't the mayor, which Fishers was just the opposite. Mayor Fadness was the one who really kind of spearheaded efforts in Fishers, in a little bit different situation in Carmel.
And then that fight will be tax dollars that pays for that fight.
It will be.
And more workers. Like this whole thing has put a big, I would say, on the shoulders of the workers of the cities because they have to deal with the permits that they have to work with. They have to,
the registry.
all of that. So it's just put a lot of burden on the city itself.
And they have to purchase software to do this. The mayor's already told the council, she'll probably ask for an additional preparation because will probably involve hiring an additional staff person to administer all of this. And so
then how do you guarantee people are on it? How do you pursue it? I mean, Indianapolis has a registry, for the record. Nobody uses it. That's the thing.
Exactly. And we tried to make that point. I know that the response from Carmel officials, we're not Indianapolis, but Indianapolis is much larger to take care of, but their registry has been on the books for 10 years. It's been a miserable failure. They have about 15% of landlords actually registered.
Well, I always wondered how they'd figure that out because I own rentals, and if it's under my name, is it just because there's no homestead exemption on it that they would even reach out and say, "Are you renting this house?"
Yeah, I mean that's how they would typically
like Big Brother.
Start
Are
the
you
process.
renting?
They've got to take some additional steps besides that because there's some reasons why some people might not have a homestead and it might not be a rental. But there are steps they have to go through, and Indianapolis hasn't even gone through those steps.
There's so many weird things. So we dealt with one in Indianapolis, and I have a client who this lady had taken care of his mother when she was passing away and everything, and after all of that, he took care of her and he bought her a house, right? And so the whole goal, rent free, no rent or anything like that, gifted this house, and then you just get to a place where you can purchase this from me. Mm-hmm. Nowhere was it ever a rental, right? But there's no homestead on this because he has a different property. And that's a whole headache. And we ended up having to walk away from the whole scenario after 2 years because we're this is going to be a massive headache for something that's not even a rental, all because just a homestead. And now we have to fight to prove we were good people and took care of somebody, which is insane. It's absolutely insane.
Well, that's government overreach in my opinion. I don't know. But you say the state's working on potentially going a different direction.
We'll wait to see what happens next legislative session. It will start in January, but I anticipate that there will be a group of folks that will pursue a piece of legislation that will try and preempt what's happened in Fishers and Carmel and prevent.
But then will Fishers and Carmel try to, because then they can sue the state, right?
Yeah, well, they'll hire their own team of lobbyists that will be working to push back
to fight it
and not let it pass the state house. So I mean, it's not a done deal. There's a lot of work that needs to happen to get it done.
Well, I just want to talk more about. So this you were highly involved in, still are.
Yeah.
Tell us some of the other things in the past that you've done for us that people may have heard of, just to understand. I want everybody to understand what maybe some of the things MIBOR does. It's not just providing the BLC for us or broker bay. Just go ahead and tell us. You gave us some great ideas of, let's just say, what happened in Greenfield.
Well, the whole idea behind advocacy is to really be a voice for realtors and for homeowners. And so when legislation is introduced at the local level, state level, or federal level, there's somebody there. There's somebody that's, number one, tracking these bills that get introduced, so that you guys can be busy going out and doing what you do best and helping people buy and sell real estate, right? So you don't have to pay attention every day to what's happening in City Hall or at State House or wherever. But so our job is to really track what's happening and then be the voice for realtors when things happen, help educate legislators on how a piece of legislation might impact homeowners or realtors or others out there, so that they sometimes it's just a matter of them being able to understand that this law they propose is going to have a negative impact on home sales or whatever, and they may not realize that. And so part of our job is just to educate, but we're out there to do things that are going to hopefully make it easier for realtors to do their business, hopefully save them money as well, prevent unneeded, burdensome fees and legislation out there. So, so I don't know. There's a number of different things we've done over the years that
I was interested when before we got on, you kind of told us that I think it's really interesting to hear what you've stepped in and handled. So
yeah, some of it's really small stuff that may seem kind of trivial, but again, it's hopefully saving you money. So think back several years ago, Noblesville used to have a sign ordinance that required realtors to get a permit, a little sticker they put on any sign they put out. So your open house sign, your for sale sign, or whatever, had to have a city approved permit from the city. And
so for an open house, I've got 6 signs. It's 6 times 25 just to have the open house.
$25 for each one of those stickers you had to get.
For the sign, or for each time I placed it?
Just for the sign. Once you had it, so you could use it multiple
So your sign's
times.
completely destroyed by the time you put
I have
it away.
so many signs. Well, not just that.
So-
Like when I was new, like with open house signs, like I remember I did this one down in Warren Township, and some neighbor, for whatever reason, didn't like the seller.
Oh, yeah. They're gone.
No, not just that, they like broke all the signs and then threw them in a tree, which made no sense to me or whatever. I was really glad I worked for Tucker at the time because our signs are free or whatever. I was like, that would have cost me like $300. But every single one of those that would have been
had to purchase new stickers.
New
Probably,
stickers,
unless
man.
you're able to peel them off the old ones or something. I don't know.
Yeah, really. We're out there with an X-Acto knife. Give me my sticker back.
So
Wow, that's crazy.
So we fought back against that, and we're
That
able
was
to get-
just Noblesville.
that was just Noblesville.
So you just don't want to list houses in Noblesville. You just go to Carmel. That's free over there.
But
Fishers, it's
we
free
got
over
it-
there.
We got it repealed. So
How
you know,
long did that take you to get them to understand that's silly?
It was a big fight.
Oh my gosh.
It really took us. Well, and I will tell you that the first time we went up I had a meeting with a city councilor on a Saturday to talk about this issue. I went up, met him at his house, and he wanted to go drive around town and look at the real estate signs, which I agreed to do, which was a big mistake on my part. Because
Was it really the agent signs or was it the new construction signs? Because new
Well,
construction
it was
signs are
both.
bananas, but it
So-
grabs them both. Like we were
Yeah.
just talking about with the rental stuff,
so
it
the,
grabs
the
everybody.
builders were swept up in this thing too.
Yeah.
So actually, the lobbyist for the builders was with me as well at this meeting, and so we go driving down the street from this counselor's house, and the first sign we pass, he's like, there's an open house sign. Let's follow, see where it goes. And this agent had just plastered signs everywhere. So it was
Good for them.
it was a really bad example, but
Oh, he had that in his back pocket. He's like,
He
this
already
is the
knew
first
that.
one
Let's
we're
go drive
Eventually-
around. I know there's a bunch. Let's go see.
eventually we were able to convince them that this was a really bad idea, because just the fact that somebody had a sign permit doesn't mean that they're going to follow the regulations and put them in the right places at the right times and so forth. And so we were able to get them to be a little bit smarter about it and pull back on that.
I've
So,
made that mistake.
yeah.
Somebody, when I was new, there's another agent who went, because like Carmel will take them and then they take them to like this.
Yeah.
the street department.
It's the sign.
They used to let
it's
you.
the sign morgue of,
Yeah.
of the street.
There's a whole
department.
pile of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, hey man, like there's like 6 of your signs in here. I was like, I was wondering where those.
And you used to be able to pick them up, but a lot of times cities now, they throw them away, and you're not allowed to get them out because of liability for
Yeah.
folks. But they are still, pretty tight on, if you put signs in roundabouts. And the public right-of-way is the big place where
Yeah.
folks get in trouble, because you're not allowed to put signs in the public right-of-way any place in any city.
Mm-hmm.
And not
sometimes-
before 5 for an open house on Friday and stuff like that. You just have to know your city's rules. And I don't know. I mean, that's Carmel's, but I don't know what
Every
other
city's
cities are.
different.
Every city is different.
Every city is different, and that's one of the things that makes it really difficult for our members to really keep up on.
As an agent, I have so many pet peeves when it comes to like some of the things we do, like with the crookedness of signs and everything.
Oh, my goodness.
There's nothing that drives me crazier than when I see open houses out on Monday still.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm just like, come on, just what are we doing?
When you
here?
left the house, you backtrack and you just pick them up as
Just
you go
grab 'em.
home, right?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we talk about that all the time. So, what's one other thing you've done?
Talk about a couple other ones. We've worked on several point of sale inspection proposals I've gone through. So what I mean by that, one proposal we stopped was in Greenfield several years ago, where they had a couple of instances where they had some sewer backups in some homes that were just recently sold, and so the city engineer thought it would be a good idea to introduce this new ordinance that any home that was being sold in Greenfield, before it sold, you had to get a video inspection of the sewer lateral line. And if it was...
Which is a good idea.
Yeah, that's
sure.
So first part of this, good idea.
Yeah, but now it's mandatory, right? So it's an added expense. But then on top of that, if the sewer lateral line was the old cast iron and not the... Yeah, I guess
PVC.
it's terracotta and some of that. Instead of the new PVC type material, you had to replace that lateral line from the house out to the connection point in the street, which can be enormously expensive for people.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And the weird thing about that one is, as an agent, I actually insanely support that idea because, I mean, you just want to have a good product, right? That's getting passed hand to hand. The problem you have is not with me as an agent and what I think protects the consumer. This doesn't protect a consumer financially, unfortunately. And this gets into like what it even costs to sell a house or to buy a house. And there's just so much that goes into it. And, you know, when you go to sell your house or buy a house, like you don't have bottomless pockets here. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to accomplish something. You have a number in mind. You're trying to do this so it can do this. And it's never always this massive like windfall where I have, like, to your point, I mean, to excavate and fix something like that, you're $6,000 minimum. It's minimum.
No,
like
yeah.
that's cheapest.
If you're running the line more,
it's even more.
yeah,
like you're talking 10, 12, 15, 20. Like it's just so massive. And the idea that like you just limited actually somebody from selling their house for something, because the weird thing about these pipes, they could be totally fine for another 100 years.
They're not
or
saying
gone
to
tomorrow.
replace them
You have
if
no
they're
idea.
broken. They were saying to replace them, period.
Correct.
Right.
And
Correct.
that's a massive overreach in regards to, they were just wanting to get everything updated on the dime of the seller.
Correct.
Get their whole city under control. And that's, you know, if they want to do that, they can go into do it themselves.
yeah.
So it makes sense at first. Like, this is why you're so necessary. It's like, that sounds like a good idea. Like, how does this actually start to impact the market, though? And, like, that's why you're there as an advocate for the market as a whole, because without that, that just gets passed. It's a good idea, and people are like, man, that's a pretty smart idea, until you're on the hook.
Yeah.
Because you sold this house, and
Well, everyone would be sold that way. Because if it's, you know, any certain age of it, it's every single house that sells is going to be put in this position. And you could make it so nobody could sell. Back to, I can't sell my house because I need to rent it because I rent it, I can't sell it. And it's just...
well, what do you do if it's your parents' house and they passed away, and now all of a sudden I have to be on the hook for this? But the weird part about that rule is, you know, at a certain point it's no longer an issue, right? All you're paying for anymore is just the sewer scope to verify that it has been updated. Mm-hmm. But for 10 to 15 years, that's a cost carry for anybody who sells, right? So... but in 20, 30 years, it's never an issue again, right? Until we find out PVC poisons people or whatever.
But my opinion is,
right?
it's not an issue till it's an issue. So if they find out it's there, that's one thing. But if they find out it's in perfect condition, that's another thing. So to be able, that's crazy. I do know that you worked on taxing of commissions.
The sales tax on services issue. Yeah. So actually, I didn't work on that, or give credit to our state association. We do have, you know, a team of government affairs folks, just like myself, that work at the state level, work for the Indiana Association of Realtors, and they work down the state house on state level issues. And then we've got a team in Washington, D.C. that works on issues at the federal level with Congress and the White House. But yeah, our state association has done a great job. That's actually an issue we've been fighting for multiple years. The sales tax on services has been something that's been floated multiple times, and they've done a great job of beating back that legislation. But it basically would have been a tax on your commission. So think about writing a check at the end of the year for 7% of all your commissions and handing that over to the state of Indiana. That's
above and beyond all the other parts that come out of it. Yeah. So that's just one really good thing that you guys are.
So this is
protecting
state
us.
level. So so I'm just curious on your opinion on this one, because I know you're probably not involved in this one, but since you are so involved in these things, I'm sure you're just educated enough to have opinions, and the way your brain works, you think ahead on these things anyways. The whole argument about property taxes that are going on, right? Because to me, we have like one of the best property tax situations in the entire nation. Yeah. And we're over here complaining about it. And I'm like, yeah, go talk to people in Texas or like somebody in Chicago or something like that. and we're trying to knock it down. And I'm like, first of all, that's just going to get transferred to something else for the record, right? But I don't. And there was a change this year, but like it's so minimal. It's like, hey, we changed property taxes. Like, yeah, but like dollar for dollar, it really didn't move the meter. And like we bring up all of these things when there's just much bigger fish to fry, right? And I don't know why we're out here having property tax arguments. Quite honestly, I've never quite understood that one.
It's kind of interesting. I'm kind of following in the same line of thinking that you are. I mean, I think one, as you said, Indiana has one of the lower rates of all, and especially our surrounding states out there, and that was really led that the reason that it's so low is because the realtors helped institute caps into the Constitution many years ago. That was led by the realtors. I don't know that a lot of our members even realize that, right? Because it's been several years. But so one, our rates were already low, but I think it was a kind of a small vocal group of people that really, tried to make it into a big issue because we've seen property taxes have gone up in the last several years because assessments have gone up. Because
property values have gone up.
Yeah, we've had such a tremendous increase in property value. So there have been some strains on people. So I don't want to, take that too lightly. But again, if you look at it on a big picture scale, I don't think that the issue was as big as some folks tried to make it into.
So like where do we, not everything. So like the rooms I come from, it's, we kind of discuss this whole idea of like, if every problem's a nail, every solution's a hammer. Mm-hmm. Like to me, like we have this property tax debate. We're really trying to protect, like for what it's worth. I think the biggest concern is people who are on fixed income, right? So like it would be my grandparents or something like that. I can see that. Well, I don't need a hammer to fix all property taxes. Why can't I just put something in there that says if you are above age 65, your property taxes don't change until transfer of ownership or something like that, and then there's a tax upon transfer of ownership, because that is the headache is once you're on fixed income, like it's fixed income, right. Any kind of change all of a sudden like impacts quality of life, and we're not trying to do that. Why aren't we looking at it like that? And it's like, let's tackle all of the property taxes for the state of Indiana. No, like how do we protect a certain class? That's what we need to look at, right? That's what I've never understood when we try to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so about that. I don't know if my background would let that happen.
But your passion would.
Yeah, it is a complicated issue, I mean, even with stuff like that, if you lessen the burden on, this group over here.
Somebody else carries it.
Then, it gets transferred to somebody else. And so, it is a complicated conversation to try and figure it all out. And, I think there was some meaningful reductions this year that will be felt over time by people. But, could we have done a better job? Probably. But, that's kind of the legislative process. And in part, too, it's a messy process. There's lots of different interests out there trying to weigh in. So.
And too much change freaks everybody out also, right? So it's like, how do you inch towards change? Because we already do have some of these things. There are additional exemptions for if you're a senior and all that. There are these other things. They're just not as impactful as
the goldenrod sheets.
Yeah, who passed that legislation, by the way? So when I worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs, goldenrod is a thing, right? But it's not even to the level of what it is with real estate.
Yeah.
Who decided? There had to be a lobbyist for a printing company or the goldenrod. So for anybody who doesn't know, goldenrod is a color, and that is what the tax information has to be printed on by state law.
Yeah, state law of all things.
And I feel
who sat around and had that Friday night conversation?
Honestly, it was probably some lobbyist for 3M. It's hey, what color are we not selling enough of?
We have a whole warehouse of this color over here. Please get rid of it.
Let's mandate that it has to be on this color. I mean, it's the printer lobbyists.
And
that's what I think.
They hand it to you at every closing.
They do. Yeah. That's such a weird rule.
There's some crazy laws out there. So,
man, I just think there's so many other things, and I guess part of it is I want people to know what all you do, right? There's some state level stuff that obviously I think you're very humble in saying that, like, maybe you're not affiliated in, but you're the feeder system for that state level. You know what I mean? Like, you're the boots on the ground for them to communicate with, right? To know, like, hey, are you seeing this here and all this other stuff? So, like the COVID stuff, like that was at a national level, also on a state level, also on a community level, right? Like it's all interconnected. And then I don't think people realize, honestly, like how to reach out to you, how to get involved with you.
Well, the involvement part of it is RPAC.
RPAC, yeah.
Everybody needs to so can you explain, agents need to understand why RPAC is, why you get requested to donate to RPAC, even $25. This is paying, so go ahead and explain why RPAC is so important.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. So the Realtors Political Action Committee is kind of one of the primary tools that we use to really be able to move our legislation. And because of the things that we do on the government affairs side are highly regulated by government. Go figure, right? So we have to, be careful about how we record it, all of our expenses and everything. But with RPAC, it's a way for our members to contribute to our political efforts. So helping people get elected that we think are going to be good for our issues out there. So. But there are campaign finance laws that make that so it has to be a voluntary contribution. So we included on your due statement, it's a voluntary suggested amount. $40 was the amount this year that we asked people to consider contributing. Again, you can pay more or less or not at all, depending on what you want to do. But we encourage people to really think about making that investment because it really helps us move these issues along. And it's really critical to have the right people elected to office that are going to do things that are, in our best interest, right? So that's what we use the money for, to help elect good officials. We're a bipartisan political action committee, so we help folks on both sides of the aisle that we think, are good for our issues. Our issues really don't fall along Democrat or Republican lines for the most part. So. But it's really important, and we have we get some great investors out there that step up to the plate and really invest in a big way, and others that don't.
He's pointing at you.
Shelly's been a great investor over the years, but we need, people to step up and help. And it's one of the things that, I feel confident in saying that, if you, at whatever level you give, if you give $25 or $40, $99, or even $1,000, I am confident in telling you that you're getting that money back with the efforts that we're putting forth out there. So we're saving you money by preventing, any number of things that I just mentioned here, the sales tax on services. I mean, if you think about what that check would be for you to write to the state of Indiana. Would you rather do that, or would you rather write a $99 check to RPAC?
And we don't know what's coming around the bend tomorrow that you're going to have happen. That you're like, we can't even fight this because it's just something we can't. Can you explain how they can do that today? How could they make a donation? Is it on MIBOR? There's a click on MIBOR.
Yeah, we've got on MIBOR Central. If you go, there's a RPAC page on there, and there's there's an invest button on there, or you can send your contribution made out to RPAC down to the offices at MIBOR, or I'm happy to come pick it up if you'd like.
Right.
Nobody told me that, because I didn't know. I'd always heard about it. I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I've probably been a donor 3 years now, and I honestly did not know until I was in Real, right? And
how important
it was
it is.
you speaking. In Real, so that's Real Estate Academy of Leadership, which Shelly encouraged me to do, and when you're new, you're just like how do you stay, right? Like there's so much of that, and then once you are like, okay, I think this is gonna work out, then you're like, how do you build your business? But there's so much more to our industry that people just don't have a freaking clue about, and honestly, I don't even know if I know about it today unless other people who were involved either led me there, told me about it, or I kind of fell backwards into it to a certain extent. And then I've been involved ever since.
And I think, too, it's easy for people to kind of tune it out or have a negative reaction to it. Mm-hmm. Politics today is just so caustic.
It's polarizing.
Right? So nobody, it's, people talk about political action committees and interest groups and all that kind of stuff. They're, that's not for me. I don't want I don't have anything to do with that and stuff. But
this is all in the best interest of the agents, for sure.
I mean, we like to tell people that, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right?
Yeah.
So we've had members, for years tell me from time to time, like MIBOR shouldn't be involved in, these kinds of political activities or whatever. But I can guarantee you that if we're not there at the city council meeting,
Greenfield
or the
will be
State House
replacing all of their.
Exactly.
They will be paying
Those
signs,
things,
stickers.
Somebody else will
Yep.
be there that has a different interest, and they will be passing legislation and fees and taxes and things that will be very unfavorable not only to our members but to their clients, and that could have really damaging effects on your ability to do your business. And so we're asking you to consider making a small investment in your business. That's really
so that
what
you have
your
a
RPAC
voice in the
investment
room.
is. It's insurance for your business, right?
Yeah, once I understood it like that, I was like, yeah, cool. Where am I sending the check to? I wish I was more involved besides just donating, but that's just all I currently do is just donate.
The Realtor Foundation as well. I just want to put that out there.
Yep.
Donate.
Another great cause out there. But
That I do have a saying, so that's a little bit different. They're doing a streamathon, and I was all excited because I was going to be on like this Family Feud thing they're going to do, but it's when I'm in Glacier, so.
I'll do it.
There's looking for.
I'll play. I'll do it.
Time to play the feud. Let's get Chris on there too. Let's get you and then Shelly and then Brad and you on there. We'll see what we can do.
Good.
So, I just
so
appreciate you coming on. There's just, we could have had you on for like 3 hours, so I definitely want to have you back on. You, Shelly, Brad, like everybody involved with our industry. There's just so much information, and I just think agents are so busy, it's hard to educate yourselves. And so anything we can do to kind of like bridge that gap to make it easier for people to be
just
educated.
make it understand of what, all that MIBOR does. I think everybody just has this feeling it's the BLC and Broker Bay, and that's as far as it goes, and it is not true by any means.
It's like the beginning of it.
Yeah, and let me, and just if I could add one more point too.
Absolutely.
Everything that we do is done with member input. So whether it's anytime we take a stand on an issue, whether it be the rental issue or sign regulations or whatever, tax issue, whatever, those positions are determined by our leadership, by our members. It's not staff that's saying, hey, we should be going out and fighting this. We take that through either a task force or through our board of directors that really, gets educated on the issue to understand, all the pros and cons and all the ins and outs of an issue before they take a position on it. And may also involve additional input from members as well, but also with the Realtors Political Action Committee, when we help support certain candidates, there's a very thorough process, and then it's done by members. We have members serving as trustees who interview all of the candidates running for mayor, for city council, for the state house, and for Congress even, and put them through some very intense interviews, wanting to know where they stand on important real estate issues before we ever can get behind somebody. So again, it's
even
not,
those
not
interviews,
staff.
Those interviews are done by agents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that's, people tend to think that it's just staff down there kind of making all these decisions on what we do, but it's member driven. Really looking out for the interest of members, trying to make sure that we're protecting your business.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, at the end, we'll kind of like walk back through how people can donate and everything. And I don't know if you want to give your information out. I would like to give your information out so other agents can like reach out to you if they have something on their radar in their community that's popping up. I'm going to jump into the stats real quick here just because it's what we do. And Shelly and I had to go talk about it today, actually. We were talking about how do you price a house, and we were just very clear that it's not about how you price a house. It's about the conversations you have with how the market has changed and the timelines have changed more than it is about what the market is kind of saying about the pricing of your home right now. So in Fishers, I had 44 go on the market in the past week, anywhere from like 289 to like 2.8 basically. 37 are still active, only 7 pended, but 33 total pended last week, right? So we picked up some inventory, which is evident. I have 264 on the market. Average days on market's 33 in Fishers, median's 24. Noblesville, I had 23 go on the market, only 5 of those pended, so 18 are still active, but 35 total pended. So we lost inventory in Noblesville, anywhere from like 140 to 1.5. It makes me really happy to see stuff in the
140.
140s. Yeah, that's
Is it still there?
That. We were talking about that earlier. That people are like have feelings about this market. I'm insanely grateful for this market because first-time homeowners can buy again. And that was non-existent for 3 years.
And they say the average first-time home buyer is now 38.
That's insanity to me. But so in Noblesville, I have 201 on the market, and my average days on market is 53 and 20. Now that has been continually increasing for weeks upon weeks upon weeks, and that's what I said last week. We're about to. My kids go back to school in Mount Vernon tomorrow. I know some schools have already started. A lot start this week, and then the next 2 weeks is going to be a lot of people who are adjusting to being back to school and getting back into the flow of it.
All the meetings.
We're going to pick up 3 weeks on market on accident for most houses. We just are.
And then it's Labor Day weekend, and everybody leaves, so it's going to be a slow month.
Matt King, actually, shout out to Matt King. He was kind of talking about today about the secondary market that starts the week after Labor Day and then goes to about the week before Thanksgiving. And I thought that was some really good information that he was kind of referencing to quantify it for people. We generally more talk about how the third quarter has been busy the past couple of years, but he even had it dialed into a more specific timeline, which I thought was kind of nice.
So in Carmel, 45 hit the market. Only 14 of those pended, a total of 37 pended. So the average days on market for Carmel in the past 7 days was 21 with a median of 13. That was the same as last week. There's currently 182 on the market, and the average days on market of Carmel houses sitting, those at 182, is 48. Only 15 new builds in Carmel, and I'm only saying that because compared to Westfield when I give their stats. But what was very interesting in the active market for Carmel, average days on market, like I said, for the houses sitting right now is 48 this week. Last week it was 86. So we went way down in Carmel on the active. So we, like I said, 37 pended. We ate up a lot of those houses in this past week. So as you talking about, maybe the next 4 weeks is going to get quiet again. There's 146 that sold in the past 30 days, average days on the market 28. So we're looking at about a month in Carmel for the past 30 days. And that's been the same as of last week as well. Westfield 40 hit the market, only 6 pended. So 26 total pended. Average days on market of those 7 was 35. The median was 20, so we're still looking at about a month in Westfield. 152 sold in the past 30 days, also 32 days on market. So we're just looking at about a month. There's 272 homes on the market in Westfield. 160 of them are resales, so we have 112 new builds on the market in Westfield.
Remember when it used to be up around 160?
Yeah, but it's still so many,
that's a lot.
So many. And I compared that to Carmel. Like I said, only 15 new builds in Carmel.
Yeah.
But their average days on market of the houses sitting in Westfield is 63. So you could be looking at 2 to 3 months if you're still sitting there. Zionsville, 7 hit the market. 5 of those pended, total of 13. So we lost 6 in Zionsville. Average days on market was 38. And the average for the past 30 days of the 54 that sold was 26. So we're also looking about a month in Zionsville.
I think in 5 years, we're talking about all the new construction in Cicero. I think one of the things we don't talk about enough is all of the new constructions in Lebanon. That's where this is going.
It's the new suburbs.
It's just where it's going. I live in McCordsville, Greenfield, all of their new construction.
Pendleton.
Yeah, Pendleton is flipped in 8 years. Does that start to reach New Pal? Does that start to reach Anderson? I think that's where it's going. I just don't see Indy slowing down with growth. There's just nothing to suggest that it's going to. People like it here, which is crazy. If you would have asked all of us 20 years ago, we'd be like, it's a flyover state. There's nothing here. We have no water access. But it's really, really nice here. I love living here. I could live elsewhere, and I choose to live here. I love where we live. So, anyway, so we'll definitely have you back on. I just think it's really interesting. I think it would be really nice to have you on as a legislature session is coming on, because at that point you will have been floated all the bills, obviously, that are going to be coming out and anything that could impact, and we'll have more movement on what just happened recently. So I definitely think we should do that.
Just to explain to us again how people can get a hold of you and how we can get them to donate. And I will just say this: if you want to drive a check over here to RPAC at 350 Veterans Way in the Carmel Tucker office, hand it off to the front desk. We'll make sure Chris gets it.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I'm always available to folks. I give out my cell phone all the time, 317-258-5805. Feel free to call me anytime, or Chris Pryor at MIBOR.com. I'm always accessible, and don't be afraid to reach out if you got questions about things, or just want to know more about certain legislation.
Or if they want to get involved.
You want to get involved. There's lots of ways to get involved. And with RPAC, too, we've got, you don't just have to just send in your contribution or include it on your dues. We've got several events that happen throughout the year. Early in the year, like in February, we do a dinner with all the mayors of Central Indiana, which is a really fun event down
awesome.
at the Columbia Club downtown. So fun night to kind of have a little bit more intimate conversation with your elected officials. We have the MIBOR Trivia Night, which is in early spring. And then we've been doing a new event over the last couple of years. We have a suite out at the opening day of practice for the Indy 500. So you get all of your, you get your lunch included, you get pit passes, garage passes. So come out and join us for one of those great events and contribute to our political efforts. So
I need to do the dinner.
Yes, you
Every
do.
time we talk about it, I'm like, I can't go tonight. You know?
Put it on the calendar for next year.
Yeah, I need to do that now. So, anyways,
I'll get you the date.
Please do. Anyways, my name's Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker. My number is 317-649-5122.
Now, Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group, FC Tucker, 317-201-2601. See you next week.